Everyone uses electric, whether to charge a laptop, straighten their hair, or maybe even to heat their house. But what most people don't know is how that electric is generated, or even where it comes from. 3 Mile Island Nuclear Generating Station is a nuclear power plant on the Susquehanna River, south of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. 3 Mile Island is one of the few nuclear power plants in the Northeast that supply you with your electricity for your everyday needs. Today I'm going to tell you first how a power plant operates, including all of its components, and secondly, the potential threats of a nuclear power plant by studying the nuclear accident of 1979, and thirdly, the other methods of obtaining energy in comparison to nuclear power plants, such as wind and solar energy. The first step in understanding nuclear energy is by looking at the components of a nuclear power plant, such as 3 Mile Island. 3 Mile Island has two separate units, known as TMI-1 and TMI-2. These units consist of pressurized water reactors, designed by Babcock and Wilcox in an article titled How Nuclear Power Plants Work by Marshall Brain. Unit 1 began operations on September 2, 1974, and Unit 2 on December 30, 1978. The cost of construction was equivalent to $1,781,448,883 today. This expensive process begins in the core. The core is where the fuel is located, which at 3 Mile Island is uranium-235. There are two rods in the core, fuel rods and control rods. The fuel rods contain the uranium, which is in the form of pellets. The control rod is used to release neutrons. The neutrons split uranium in a process known as fission. Fission releases heat. The speed of this reaction is highly important, which is controlled by the amount of neutrons leaving the control rods. The heat from this reaction is used to heat the first loop of water, known as the primary loop. The first loop is now radioactive and uses heat exchange to heat a separate loop of water. The first loop is then cooled by this exchange. The water in the second loop, the non-radioactive loop, is heated until it forms steam. The steam is used to spin turbines, which are lined up on a shaft. The spinning of these turbines causes grindings of copper windings to produce electricity by a generator. The steam is then condensed back to water and cooled by the cooling towers. According to a chemistry technician from 3 Mile Island, every 2 years the core needs to be replaced so that there is enough uranium present for the reaction. The two units of 3 Mile Island went through the same processes until a partial meltdown in Unit 2 caused it to be shut down. Now that we have looked at how a power plant works, let's look at the potential dangers. 3 Mile Island accident began at 4 a.m. on March 28, 1979. The main feed water pump had stopped running. The generators could not remove heat due to this loss of steam. The turbine, then the reactor, automatically shut down. The pressure in the nuclear portion began to increase, causing a relief valve to open. The valve was supposed to have closed in a certain amount of time, but it did not. Signals failed to show the operator that the valve had not closed. The pressure continued to decrease according to 3mileisland.org. A separate problem with the water signals indicated water had been filling in the pressurizer, so the operator shut it off. The water was not really there to cool the nuclear fuel, and it overheated. A reaction due to this heat caused a hydrogen bubble to form over the core. The plant worked hard to fix this problem, with as less harm as possible. Small amounts of radiation were released into the environment. According to an article titled 3 Mile Island Accident, Governor Thornburg of Pennsylvania ordered an evacuation within a 5-mile radius. The evacuation was on March 30th and for pregnant women and preschool children. The situation was then under control and fixed by April 4th. Many investigations took place, testing air, water, milk, vegetation, and soil. The results showed very low levels of radiation. No major dangers or harm were done. The main factors of this accident seem to be a combination of personal error, design deficiencies, and component failures. The accident did lead to more awareness of the dangers of nuclear power plants. Today, the public health and safety has been strengthened as a result of this accident. Although nuclear power plants do come with potential dangers, they are an efficient source of power. There are other efficient methods as well. Some of these methods include wind and solar energy. Solar power converts sunlight into electricity. Lens, mirrors, or tracking systems are used to focus a large area of sunlight into a small beam. Solar power is one of the cleanest methods of energy production known. There are no harmful byproducts or threats to the environment. This type of energy is high in cost and must constantly be replaced and maintained. Solar energy is better for lower amounts of energy production, unlike nuclear power plants. According to RenewableEnergyWorld.com, solar panels have only a 40% efficiency and depends on the amount of sunlight available in that area. The nuclear energy is more reliable. Wind energy is another type of power source. It has been around to power boats and other seacraft for years. Today, windmills have led to the accomplishment of agricultural tasks which contribute to the growth of civilization. They are clean and cheap means of energy. The wind rotates blades, which are sometimes called rotors. The spinning movement is transformed into electricity by a generator. The placement of windmills is important, seeing as they will need strong wind for maximum output. There does need to be a backup system for this energy. Speeds of 8 miles per hour are needed to spin small turbines, and speeds of 13 miles per hour are needed for large plants. One problem with wind energy is that it requires a lot of square mileage. It does, however, release no pollution. Wind energy still lacks in energy production compared to nuclear power plants. Although I only covered nuclear, solar, and wind energy, keep in mind there are other options, such as fossil fuels, hydroelectric, biomass, and geothermal. Most of these methods have impacted your life without you ever noticing. We took a closer look at where you receive your electricity from by learning about nuclear power plants. We viewed how fission reactions cause heat that produce steam to turn a turbine. The turning motion leads to electricity by a generator. After learning the details of that process, we discussed the potential dangers of a nuclear power plant by examining the accident of 1979. We then focused on two other less harmful methods of energy, wind and solar. Both of these methods have their advantages and disadvantages. I hope you have become more educated with some of the processes that allow you to charge your laptop, straighten your hair, or maybe even heat your house. In a world filled with energy problems, it's important to keep these options open.